Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to 22 Panels. My guest tonight is Dennis Hopeless, uh, author of the just released Just Brutal, right?
Yes.
It just I sudden when I said just released and had that just there, I suddenly went, wait a minute, am I about to say just again? Yes, I'm just just brutal. I love the first issue. I love the first three issues, but our audience hasn't read the first three issues. Hopefully, many of them have read the first issue. Um, you want to give me the front counter pitch before I accidentally spoil anything?
Yeah, for sure. This is not my pitch. I have to give credit to Dan, who is the sales guy at Ignition. He said it's like the Mitchells meet the the Mitchells versus the Machines meets Masters of the Universe, which is a perfect, succinct elevator pitch for it. Um,
Okay.
but yeah, it's basically a normal suburban family uh, has a secret that revealed that forces them to have to deal with the evil forces of Skeletor.
Okay. I like it. Yeah. Are you auditioning for the next time Tim Seeley's not the guy for Masters of the Universe, or just doing your own thing?
I would have taken that job at any point. Thundercats or Masters of the Universe, or if they ever do. I mean, I think they are doing Silverhawk stuff now, even.
They are.
That,
In fact, there's a Silverhawk Thundercats crossover, I think.
yeah, I was the perfect like preschool, kindergarten, first grade age when that stuff was hot, and so it
Okay.
is seared into my frontal lobe, and it is.
Right.
I love it. Um,
Box Brown wrote a book about that.
really.
Yeah. The He-Man effect. All about how it gets seared in your frontal lobe
Yeah.
because
Uh,
a comic book about that, I should make
oh,
clear.
cool. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, Kyle Strom and I are exactly the same age. He's a brilliant artist and a local guy and one of my best friends. He drew Twig at Image a couple
Yeah.
years ago. This is a big hit,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
then like Spread, he did more stuff. But
I, I
Kyle and
talked to him
I,
at C2E2 a couple years ago. I still haven't had him on.
you should.
But
He's
I know
delightful.
I keep meaning to, and I know that he listened to at least one episode because he was one of the first people that ever responded to something we said like on social media
Really.
in a good way. It's like because I think I made a big deal out of I, I try to only talk about stuff that I like. I don't need to talk about how bad something is. Somebody else might like it. And besides, there's not enough time to talk about all the stuff I like. So why would I take time bashing something?
I 100% agree with that. Yeah, Kyle and I are the same age, and he has
Guessing
this
you're
thing.
right around my age too, based on where you had Thundercats and whatnot in your life.
Yeah,
I was
probably.
born in 1980.
Yeah, we were born in '81, so
Okay,
yes,
yeah,
yes, absolutely. Um,
youngins.
so yeah, we always talked about how that stuff is so important to us, but when you go and rewatch it, it like the experience is so disappointing because it doesn't feel the same. And we actually did a podcast series that we never put out during COVID that was rewatching those old episodes and trying to figure
Okay.
out what was it about this that we loved so much. And I think what it comes down to is it was imagination fuel. Like there's just enough weird there that it seems like there's a lot going on, but they don't explain any of it. And so your little kid mind
Yes.
can just like fill in all those gaps. And
But also you had the toys to fill in the gaps because Reagan had changed the laws and they could now make TV shows that were designed to sell
right.
toys.
Yeah,
You were a mark.
I was absolutely. But and that's kind of where
Well,
Just
I mean,
Brutal
really,
came
your
from.
parents were the mark.
Sure.
You were like the fuel. They set you on fire, and then your parents are like, I buy him Lion-O or I hear him scream.
Right. Well, my parents were poor, so they didn't get a lot of our money. They got some. I had Snake
Right.
Mountain and I had a handful of toys, but most of my He-Man and Thundercats toys I were purchased in college or since
Right.
when I had my own money. But yeah, that's kind of where Just Brutal came from. Is like, how do I take the imagination fuel and like the weird monstrous bad guys that are so fun that made these action figures that had such staying power, and put it into a story that isn't just me trying to grow up this child, this childlike story. Because I think a lot of times when people try to do their version of He-Man or their version of Thundercats, it's like, how do I make this a little bit more adult but keep it the same? And so I wanted to just take that. Okay, that's the imagination fuel. That's the like magic system sort of the story, but within that, tell a story that's very me, and it's like something I have to say about the world and parenting and family and all that.
Well, I mean, are we allowed to give away like the basic starting plot point in terms of how you grew it up?
Yeah, for
Because I
sure.
thought it was brilliant. Like you took them and you had them be retired and start a
Yeah,
family.
yeah, yeah.
Convinced that they'd won and they didn't have to do this anymore, and went and started a family.
Right.
Except no.
Yeah, and there's a lot. It's an interesting creative journey because I came up with the retired Conan the Barbarian or the retired He-Man part of it so long ago, like impossibly long ago. It was originally based on Brett Favre retiring and unretiring, which was like 2007.
I vaguely remember that.
I had this idea.
Back before he became like a pariah to me.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, exactly. But I read this. It was a Bill Simmons article when he used to write for ESPN. He said
Right.
that his father was like an educator who had gone on to be a principal, and then he was a superintendent of schools or whatever, and he retired in his 70s, and it was devastating. And he was saying, like, watching my father deal with the emotion of going through retirement and never being able to do that anymore, you can maybe understand how someone who's 40, who's only ever been good at one thing, isn't going to want to never do that thing again. Like, that would be a devastating thing to have to accept, that for half of your life, the rest of your life.
I mean, that's always something that I've thought about. Definitely athletes to a certain extent, artists, because, it seems like there are few exceptions to the rule when it comes to um being able to adapt enough to both keep their old fans with their new stuff and bring in new fans with stuff that meets them where they are. I mean, I think in writing, there's probably more exceptions than elsewhere. But like, I remember when Tom Petty died, one of the big deals in um almost every like obituary for him was that his top selling album was his ninth album,
Right.
because almost every band, and mind you, he'd had platinum albums before. It wasn't like he hadn't sold anything, but almost everybody, their top selling album is in their first three.
Right.
There are so few people that it's
Yeah, when even the
even
bands
eight
that
years
stay
in
together.
that they suddenly put out the thing that everybody wants.
Right. And even the bands that stay together and keep making music, they do concerts where they play hits from 40 years ago
Hmm.
because no one wants to hear what 70-year-old Mick Jagger. I mean, so there are people that want to, but it's a lot smaller group of people
Right.
that are into the
I
thought
mean,
of 70-year-old Mick Jagger.
like I'm a rabid Pearl Jam fan because I, I very much feel like the band grew up with me, and whatever new album is actually tends to hit me right where I am, and that's just kind of a cool experience.
Yeah.
Um, but when I go to concerts, there's so many people that like judge the concert by how many songs 10 verses in Vitology get played.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, that
It's
would be
like,
really hard.
and don't get me wrong, I like Alive as much as anybody does, but like I kind of wish that it wasn't. I love it when there's a show that's more late Pearl Jam heavy than early Pearl Jam heavy, but I also know I'm in a minority,
Right.
even among rabid Pearl Jam fans,
Right.
because like, and that's, I mean, they are like that in part because they do evolve. The other side of the coin is like an Aerosmith that never evolved.
Right.
where it's like, oh, this one it goes on the greatest hits album, even though it's mostly like that other one, but we like it a little bit better, and the whole album's like all the other ones, which is why I need the greatest hits album for the
Right.
for the 8 songs that I like from the last 12 albums.
Yeah. And I mean, I've seen that in my own career. Like, I think that I'm lucky on some level that probably my biggest like career achievement at Marvel was a book that mostly parents related to and that other people didn't
Right.
really get, because like I didn't have like a massive million selling hit that I'm never going to be able to achieve again. Like I had this like
Yeah.
niche hit that was awesome and I got to do forever and was critically acclaimed and people loved.
And it's amazing. I love it. We're
But it
talking about
was,
Spider-Woman, if anybody's
yes,
not aware.
yeah. But my Spider-Woman was about me as a brand new parent dealing with the way in which that completely remakes you as a human and trying to figure out like where you exist in the world. And
Right.
now, whatever,
That is definitely why I loved it.
11 years later, I'm making a story about what it is to be a more mature parent with kids that are growing up and realizing I'm either going to not prepare them for the world as it is, or I'm at some point going to have to take a sledgehammer to their innocence because the world is big and scary.
You mean that you progressed as a parent in real life and did so in your writing as well? That's crazy talk, Dennis. Crazy talk.
But it's fun. Like, not
And
once I
it,
realized how accidentally autobiographical all my work is, it's fun to lean into it and really think about
oh, absolutely. And,
what.
and in between, you wrote about your criminal parents.
Yes, yes, I did.
I mean, we got the overwhelmed by new parenthood, looking back on my own parents and figuring out what I can learn from them. And
Right.
didn't you what was it a vault book or you had a horror book in there
Hard
too,
Eyes.
did
Yeah,
Hard Eyes, which was I don't know, the romance book.
yeah. It was basically about
Were you the
loneliness and
monster
COVID.
in that one or the human in that
Yeah,
one?
no, I mean it's basically about how relationships are always painful, and
Right.
the world post COVID was a terrifying place where you didn't really know what it was going to look like. And so how do you forge new relationships
Yep.
within this where relationships are painful and dangerous, but you don't want to be alone forever? I didn't mean it to be that on the nose, but looking back at it, it was very much what I was going through at the time. Um,
Tom King deals with his PTSD. You deal with like relationships and parenthood. It makes sense.
yeah, it's interesting. She's running the book about my parents. She's running on fumes. That one was very clearly about my parents. It was like my mom's struggle in figuring out that she was never going to be comfortable in a relationship with my father and like what led to their divorce. And then I fictionalized it and made it a crime story using my dad's actual criminal.
Fictionalized.
Yeah. I mean, well, the plot was fiction. The setups and the things that the situation, the life was not.
Okay. As long as the statute of limitations is up.
Yeah, no, yeah. Well, my dad's been dead for 20 years. So,
Well, I wasn't talking about your dad. I was trying to keep your mom out of trouble.
oh yes, my mother was very concerned about that.
I
Like, are you
mean,
implicating me in crimes in this thing? I'm like, well, crimes aren't real for one thing, and secondly, yeah, it's been.
your dad didn't come off very nice in the book. If the statute of limitations wasn't up and it led to his arrest, that might be good for everybody.
Yeah, it's interesting. My uncle came to a comic convention who I hadn't seen in forever. My dad's brother. I told him he bought the book from me and then proceeded to tell me how my dad was his hero. My dad was his older brother, and I was like, maybe don't read the book. Like, I appreciate the support, but I'm not sure you're gonna love it. And then I realized he was never going to read the book. Like he didn't want a comic book. He bought it to be supportive of, which was sweet of him.
Right.
But that book was like very clearly defined in what I wanted to do with it and what I was trying to say. And then I gave it to a good friend of mine, Robbie Thompson, who's a comic book writer and a TV showrunner and one of the smartest people I know. And he got to the end of it and he said, at the end of this book, it was clear to me that this is you processing your own divorce through the lens of your parents' divorce, and that's beautiful. And I thought, damn it, I finally was trying to make a book that wasn't about what I like, my own personal emotions and life story. And yeah, he's probably right. It probably was me
I, I,
exercising those demons.
I don't think that I don't think I've met a writer that ever writes something that's not driven by, I mean, even the absurdist writers, when you talk to them, you'll discover like that the feelings are still things that they know about,
Right.
you know. And often like they'll read the book and go, so that's what I was thinking about.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
That's what I was going through when I desperately needed to get out that heist story. That's what I was going through when I decided to write about Godzilla.
Right. Yeah. And
Um,
my partner asked me when we were talking about the parent characters, Dex and Jan in Just Brutal, like is one of them your ex? Is one of them me? And I'm like, well, not really. And I started describing it. And she's like, oh, they're both you. They're your dueling parental instincts arguing with each other about whether it's better to protect your kids or prepare them. And it's like, yeah, that's probably true.
Sounds about right. Sounds about right. And like monsters are as good a stand-in for MAGA and the Abyss as I can think of.
Well, that's the thing. Like the fact that anybody is susceptible, like when you have a powerful force that's trying to remake the world in his image, and something doesn't stand up against it, anything and anyone is susceptible of getting corrupted by that. Like that's what's going on. It's no, I'm not going to say that like directly in the book, but yeah, that definitely this rot that is changing the world and making everything worse that people just ignore and go on about their daily lives because they feel powerless to stop it. Like that was definitely in my head when I was doing that.
Yeah.
Like,
No,
I don't live in Iowa, so it's okay that Iowa is being turned into whatever.
the greatest trick the Republican Party ever pulled was convincing everybody that all politicians are bad.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong, there are plenty of Democrats that I get frustrated with. I mean, like, that's part of the problem. There's just enough truth to it to be able to run with it. But there's also like massive levels of degrees.
Right.
Yeah,
it reminds me of the argument that the billboards that you see in the Midwest about like abortion and tying abortion to religion aren't trying to change anyone's mind. They're trying to convince pro-life people that most other people disagree with them so that they're more comfortable living in a world where that's being pushed.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I was talking about this recently with somebody, like when this news story started breaking about fake news before fake news got co-opted to mean something else, when it was actually about fake news stories that were getting posted on Facebook to drive content, and how like they were set up in such a way that like the more churn it caused, the more they put out articles on that topic.
Right.
The two topics that got the most stories were right-wing nonsense and Star Wars.
Right.
And it was both about driving wedges.
Right.
I mean, but that's the thing that like isn't understood enough by a lot of people, is that like to a certain extent Russia doesn't care, and other players too, but Russia's been doing a lot of it. Russia doesn't care like what we think. They care that we don't agree with each other.
Right. Because then we can't
every wedge they can drive.
Right. And it's obvious. Like if you talk to family members who are on the other side, they live in a different world. They see completely different information, and you can't convince them of anything else. And like it's so effective. It's kind of terrifying that they just like we perfected advertising and marketing, and then it was taken by the political sector. and turned
Well,
into
and don't forget like gutting education for 40 years before that, and gutting job protections and gutting the social safety net. So like now we have a less educated in any manner except towards the test.
right.
You know, we add as well. We probably read as well or better. I mean, there's been some, I work in education.
Right.
There's been some slippage in the last 5 years, maybe six, but like a lot of it's overblown because like we're down like 2% of our high, but our high was like 50% higher than in 1960.
Right.
So
Right.
it's like our kids aren't doing as well as they were in 2000. They're still doing way better than the people who are complaining about them were doing when
Right.
they were in high school. Not even close to,
Yeah.
but like,
My
heaven
parents weren't
forbid we
readers.
understand statistics.
Right. My parents weren't readers, neither one of them. My dad read the Bible once a week, and he had a Mick Fleetwood autobiography on his bedside table for 20 years that he never opened. And my mom will read a magazine every now and again, but she's not a reader. And my sister and I both were. But my kids, because both of the adults, all of the adults they live with are readers. That's just what they do, and quiet, like they just
Right.
read as a matter of
Mhm.
course. So
Mhm.
some of it is probably just there's so much other stuff to do that if your parents aren't modeling it and you're not
Absolutely.
having time carved out, like what would it wouldn't occur to you to do?
Right. I mean, it doesn't occur to you to read, but also like, I mean, even as an educator, the one thing that has been gutted is the idea that we should um really analyze what we read.
Right.
You know, one of the oldest problems of the education system, this is even something that's changed, is like the way we test, the way we teach, it tends towards one right answer. It tends towards memorization rather than
Right.
figure it out. Um, and that makes it even harder to like, okay, we're not willing to teach about this because it'll upset people. We're not willing to teach about this because it'll upset people. So remember this.
Right.
And there's never any learning about, I mean, I remember how long educators were like, don't use Wikipedia because it can be edited, blah, blah, blah. It's not reliable. And I'm like, you actually played with it?
Right.
Yeah, it's not 100% reliable, but you can tell whether it's reliable. They
Right.
call for citations. You can then click on those citations and make certain they're used properly.
Right.
This is way better than a normal encyclopedia.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. Critical thinking is the thing I'm most concerned about. Like I'm obviously concerned about what the job market even looks like going forward for me, let alone for my kids when they grow up, just because
Right.
we live in late stage capitalism. But I'm more concerned about, are they going to actually learn to be adults that use critical thinking? And how do I get
Mhm.
that? And how expensive is that going to be by the time they get there? Because it's the one nice thing about college is like they force you to think critically in order to get.
Less and less.
Well, yeah, probably that's true. But
Less and less. Because that's where they started attacking first.
right,
Um, and as soon as you take money away from college or make it more expensive, the people just read a terrifying book called Dark Money that like went through the history of the Koch network and similar type people. And man, I knew they were insidious, and
right,
they're so much more insidious than I realized. Stuff like they actively lobbied to have funding cut from the University of, I think, Virginia. And when they were about to close their economics program, they swept in and paid for the economics program, but only if they taught it this way.
right. Yeah, that's horrifying.
It's like, I suddenly understand how we have people like Brett Kavanaugh now, and yet we still hear about the liberal colleges.
Right.
Sorry, I'm on a rant. That's not as much interest. It's way more fun to talk back and forth.
No, yeah, I worry about all that stuff. And
I know.
what do you
Because
do?
your kids are just starting high school?
No, they're fifth graders, and I have a
Oh,
third
okay.
grader
So
that's
they're
my partner's kid.
okay.
Yeah, so they're they're young enough that it's totally murky what it's going to look like.
Yeah. Well, I mean, here's the thing. You play D&D with them, you have conversations with them. As much as anything, that's how critical thinking gets learned. It's great when they can hone it at school too. There is the downside that you're ruining them for school, because if nobody else is acting, I mean, my grandfather taught me rudimentary physics and calculus as part of making my Pinewood Derby car when I was in third grade.
Right.
Because he was a physicist and he drank a lot. So it didn't occur to him not to tell a third grader the basic physics and calculus involved in making the pine. And I got it just well enough. So he ruined me for every math teacher going forward. Ruined me for half of my science teachers, because the stuff they're doing, I'm like, yeah, this. I remember in my physics class, like near the end of the semester, first semester, when I barely had a D in the class because I was so bored.
Right.
The teacher came up to me with a thing where she was recommending me for the who's who of high school science, whatever. And I'm like, why? And she's like, well, when I filled out the forms, you still had an A plus. I still don't understand what changed. I'm like, well, you started grading homework from the other side of the room. It's like, what do you mean? I'm like, I used to start my homework when you started grading. When you started in that corner and I was the last person you got to, I had time to get it all done. Then you started grading from the front of my row. I had time to get one, maybe two problems done rather than the whole thing. It's just like, you're kidding me, right? I'm like, no. But why don't you do it at home? I got more interesting things to do.
Right. Yeah, and that's the challenge. That's the challenge with my kids more than anything, is if they're interested, they throw themselves into it, and they do really well in school. But when they get bored, you can't make them do anything.
Well, and that's not horrible.
No.
I mean, there's actually like limited value in being able to push yourself to things that you don't like. I mean, the only real value in that is if you assume that you're going to get a job that you hate.
Yeah, well, and every adult in their life is neurodivergent, so they they were screwed from Jump Street. Yeah, right.
I have my autism diagnosis now. It's so great.
Yeah, once you see it, once you understand, like, oh, my brain doesn't work like they're expecting it to work, and therefore I'm not going to be able to just get up at the same time and do the same things every day without wanting to die. So I just don't expect myself to do that.
My wife, since I got my diagnosis, and she's self-diagnosed, hasn't got an actual diagnosis yet, so she enjoys it as well. But she's joined like every autism support Facebook group, whatever. She follows the memes just to be able to make me laugh or to whatever. And one of my favorites that she's ever seen me was fire was created by the neurodivergent person in the back of the cave banging rocks together to see what happened while everybody else was out front talking about their hair and the weather.
Right? Yeah. I stopped drinking this past year. It's been 14 months, I guess. And I didn't drink a lot. I had a problem, but I realized I was socially lubricating and self-medicating anytime I did drink. It was because I had an exhausting day and I wanted to turn the volume down, or I was trying to talk to people that wanted to talk about things I wasn't interested in. And it's been an interesting journey having to learn how to just be silent, because I can't make myself engage in conversation I'm not interested in. And then I'm also sorry, go ahead.
You're also allowed to leave and or tell them that you're not interested. It is allowed.
That makes sense. Yeah.
That's been one of the things that I've had to learn. Is like,
I'm allowed to say, yeah, I don't care.
Right. That's good. Because I sit and I'll just sit silently and think, well, I could say something there, but we moved on from that. Like, there's a lot of me analyzing the conversation and trying to find my end point.
Oh yeah. Well, and then when you have the good thing and you're looking for your endpoint, and then the conversation moves, but you still have your thing that you need to say now because you came up with the right words and
Right.
you haven't said them yet. So they're just rattling around in your brain until you can get them out.
Yes.
Sometimes I wind up having to like send a text message to my wife saying, so and so was saying this, and so was saying this, and I wanted to say this, but I couldn't get it in.
Yeah, I have 3 elementary school age children here that get furious with one another anytime there's a family conversation for that exact reason.
I mean, it's worth working out rules. Like a rule that I recently came up with that I haven't been able to implement enough places because frankly, we've got so much family history and whatnot that we follow argument and sometimes we just don't talk to each other because we live far away. But like I came across it accidentally when and somebody else actually did it, but I went, oh, this is why this worked. When you're having the argument or the heated conversation or just I mean, half the time one person thinks it's a discussion and person thinks it's an argument, which is the first problem, right? But you can end the discussion or you can have the last word. You can't do both.
Right. Yeah.
If you want to choose not to respond and to say, I don't want to talk about this anymore, that's fine. What you can't do is throw a grenade and then say, I don't want to talk about this anymore.
Right.
That's just not fair.
Yeah. Yeah, the kids struggle with that. They really want to get that last word in. And I'll just get in the middle and be like, we're going to all stop talking because it's not going to be productive.
Sometimes it's really hard though, because I mean, particularly because again, like so often, like how the people viewing the conversation or the people's view of the conversation, like the number of times I don't realize that somebody thought we were fighting
Right.
until they're done. I'm like, I thought we were just having a conversation.
Right.
I thought we were exchanging information and views, kind of making arguments and trying to shape each other's views, but not in a way that like I was going to be heartbroken if you didn't see things my way, and much more in a way where I was hoping that you would either convince me that you were right or at least give me enough information that I had a more enhanced view of whatever we're talking about.
Right.
I don't have these conversations with the intent to keep my same opinion. The whole idea is to have at least a slightly different opinion at the end of it. For me.
Yeah, I mean that's how a conversation should work. It rarely does.
Yeah, apparently, like most neurotypical people, or as this is another one that my wife sent me. She sent me one where a autistic, well, I think the mom's neurodivergent too, but she was talking about her autistic son who had called neurotypical people neurodifficult people in the car ride to school that morning. And she decided, and I think I'm going to use that from now on. I'm like, yes, I love it. Neurodivergent and neurodifficult. Perfect.
Yeah.
Because among other things, like one of the hardest things for me in life is like, I'm not good at my intonation. I'm not good at my volume.
Right. I'm not either.
And they often have absolutely nothing to do with my words.
Right.
It's as likely that like because I also almost always have 3 thoughts going in my head at a time. So like I'm pissed off at Donald Trump, but you think I don't like the pizza.
Right.
Um, so like I'm blown away at when you lay it out for them, how many even neurotypical people, when you say, like, how about this crazy idea? We say what we mean and we mean what we say. And like we don't worry about phrasing it in any way other than like to mean what we say.
Right.
And they're like, oh God, if the world was that easy. And I'm like, why don't we just make it that easy?
Yeah. I struggle. I mean, it's because of how I was raised. It's pretty easy to find the root cause of this.
Oh, yeah.
But I am hyper vigilant of other people's tone and mood and energy because I was always terrified of getting in trouble as a child,
Right.
because it would be, there's a rage cycle that would go on.
Yep.
And
Yep.
so I find myself attempting to appease other people when they may not even be thinking about me at all, but I'm getting bad energy from them. And I'm
certainly not looking for appeasement.
Right. But I'm just like, I'm starting to realize that that's unfair. Like, I'm not allowing other people to have emotions without me trying to put the fire out. And it's a parenting challenge for me too, because
that's a good way to put it.
Emotions.
Because I think even most people look at that as it's unfair to them personally to always have to be putting out the fire. But you're right. It's also unfair to the person that's like, oh no, don't be angry about that thing that it's completely reasonable to be angry about.
Right. When I realized that because that's my instinct, when my kids would bring me emotions from school, like, oh, this thing happened or whatever, I would always try to like reframe it so they're not upset anymore. And I realized that's not fair. This thing happened, it upset you. It's okay to be upset. And we go through all of that. And then we have the talk about like, let's look at it from the other person's side, or let's figure out what you can do in the future to like make sure that doesn't happen again, or that you're more power in that situation. And it's been really helpful. But also, me not trying to bottle up everyone's emotions all the time makes me have fewer emotional outbursts because I'm not exhausted emotionally all the time. So it's been really nice.
Now, how does that, because you're both parents and Just Brutal.
Yeah.
How does that play out in your writing? Is one of them more like the person who's still learning things like that, and one of them more like the person that's gotten, okay, my kids are allowed to be scared.
No,
they're allowed to be angry.
Wrong.
They're allowed.
I think
they're both wrong.
What they are is two people that have kids that are different than them in a way that is challenging because they've chosen a specific path. Like, they're both very hard line and like, this is the right way to do this thing. This is the right way to deal with it. But because they have a kid that's exactly like the opposite parent, it makes it so that it doesn't, like, it's not working for either one of them. And the reality is they probably should have talked about it, right? Like, they probably should have figured out a third path, or like come up with a plan together.
Talk to each other and or your kids.
Right.
Crazy talk, Dennis. Crazy talk. This only works in comic books. Which is why people should read more comic books.
They should. But yeah, there's a lot of love going on in Just Brutal.
There is
great parenting happening.
I mean, again, I've only read half of the 6-issue series. I'm looking forward to reading the rest, but I'd say that there's a lot of attempts at good parenting.
Yes.
And since like intent is like 80% of how good of a parent you are.
Yeah.
It's not strictly bad parenting. It's just not quite there yet.
Yeah, they're definitely trying.
Right.
Considering they're 3,000-year-old barbarian warriors, like, they're doing great.
Well, and who didn't bother have kids for the first 2,980 years.
Right.
Exactly. So I mean, they could be going through parenthood for like the average lifespan's 100 years, so they could be going through parenting for like the 30th time, and they could be pros at it, but they chose not to.
Yes.
Are the kids going to wind up having powers or immortality or anything like that, or is that?
Trying to think of where you're at. Well, I can't.
Yeah, I mean, we don't want to spoil it too much.
So it is an inversion, and it's both an inversion and an exploration of the Chosen One story, right? Like, there's a reason I'm promoting it that way. It is a normal person with normal aptitudes, whether they're really smart, really athletic, really whatever, would fail miserably if given a magic sword and told to save the world. Like, that's not a thing that a normal person would be able to tolerate and deal with.
I'm now very sad. I wanted to save the world with my magic sword.
Right. And so
being the old fat guy doesn't make that work.
I mean, at this point, my
thought-
knees can't save anything. So I'm glad there's no swords in my life. But yeah, I wanted to explore that. Like, but also, this is your responsibility. Like, on some level, you're the only one who gets a shot at this. So even if you're
Right.
going to fail at it, it's worth the fight. And so
Right.
we're exploring that trope, but also just this idea that like the fight to save the world or make the world you want to live in, probably you're not going to win in your lifetime, but if nobody ever fights it, the world just keeps getting worse, right? So like
Right.
we're playing with that thematically too. Like it's worth
Yeah.
the battle, even if you have to wear the scars. And I think that's one of the things that's the most challenging about being a parent, is that like I am better for the good parts of my life, but I'm more better because of the shitty things I've gone through.
Oh,
Like,
absolutely.
learning in the darkest times and my biggest failures. And my kids aren't going to get to a place of wisdom by me protecting them from all of the things in the world that are going to be upsetting, right?
Yeah. See, I was a really young parent. So I got so many dirty looks and or lectures from helicopter moms for what I would allow my kids to do on the playground.
Right.
Until I finally came up with the script where I said, look, would you rather have your kids learn about risk versus reward when the damage is a bruise, a scrape, or at worst a broken arm? Or
Right.
do you want their first risk versus reward experience to be behind the wheel of a car?
Right.
That shut them up. But it took so long to come up with it because it's like, I mean, I inherently knew that I wasn't just being lazy and not running around saying, get down. No, get down right now.
Right.
And like the more dangerous they got, the more likely I would be to say things like, you're going to fall and it's going to hurt. And I'm not going to have any sympathy for you.
Right.
Because that would drive them up the wall. When they'd fall, it would hurt and they'd come running to me, like just bawling. And I'd say, what did I say? That I was gonna fall. And what did I say would happen next? It would hurt. Maybe we listen next time.
Yeah, one of my good friends he was a behavioral interventionist, and he said that kids ignore, if you give them negative instructions, they will ignore it 100% of the time. You have to tell them something to do, not something not to do. So if you
Right.
want, if they need them to stop, you need to give them some other thing to do.
Oh, absolutely.
Which is the most difficult because of how we were all raised. Like,
Yeah.
yelled at to stop all the whole time I was a child.
I mean, and I never fully got rid of the stop, but like I did figure out that it was like, Jonah Ryan, take the damn fork out of the outlet and let's play baseball.
Right.
Let's go watch Jurassic Park. My kids are the only, well, probably not the only kids ever, but certainly the first kids I saw root for the dinosaurs.
In Jurassic Park. I mean, it's fair. At least some of those characters deserve to be mauled by dinosaurs.
Circle of life, Dad. Dinosaurs got to eat.
Right.
Yeah. So Just Brutal is fantastic. Anything else on the horizon?
Yes, finally. Just Brutal was a project that was dormant forever. Like it almost went at Vertigo 10 years ago when Jamie Rich.
Oh, like the original time Vertigo.
Yeah. And Jamie was an editor. And then when I'm good friends with Jeremy Hahn, and he and Philip Sablick and Jamie Rich and the other people that I don't know created Ignition, they like set up a meeting with me when they were in Kansas City. And I just assumed it was like them explaining the company and talking about what, like how to pitch. And it wasn't. It was Jamie being like, I've had this for a decade. If you want to do it, it's already greenlit. And so it just like came back from the dead. Because the other things that I was working on this year, I basically do one book a year now, had stalled and weren't happening. And now that Just Brutal is finishing up, I'm going to do more stuff at Ignition, but then also those things have picked back up. So I have the print edition of She's Running on Fumes is going to come out next year. So we're working.
Who's putting that out?
Mad Cave.
Okay.
That was originally
Mad Cave.
What?
Mad Cave does some pretty awesome stuff.
Yeah. I worked with them during COVID on just a graphic novella thing. And then I guess Comixology worked out a deal with them. And then at the same time, I was pitching this book, this middle grade book with Chris Grine around that I've been talking about forever that we were going to kickstart. And Mad Cave wants to do that too. So
for Maverick, Maverick is one of my favorite middle grade YA lines. Very well curated. You're in good hands over there.
Thanks. So yeah, I've got that stuff going. I'm trying to, like, my day job is marketing, so I'm trying to actually market these things smart, which is great but exhausting. So I find myself busier than I've been since I stopped doing full-time comics. Both at my day job.
We're always free to talk to. And I don't know how good we are at marketing though, because like I'm bad at marketing myself. So like if you want to plug the hell out of your podcast appearances on my show, maybe you can grow 22 panels. Got 800 some odd episodes for people to get caught up on.
I absolutely will.
Telling people about them.
Because I would much rather have a conversation with you and then chop up the best bits and make a reel out of it than to me have to hold a camera up in my face. And
hey, I'm down with that. They did that with I got to talk to the American Caper team. So I talked to Shelley Bond, Laszlo, and David Lapham, and they wound up cutting it up into like a minute that didn't have any of me, but that was okay.
Right.
Because they still plugged me. It's like, hey, here's the highlights from
Yeah, that's awesome. That's the best way to do it. I actually, in the internship that I did at my buddy's company, when I realized I needed a job that wasn't comics full time after COVID, one of the things I did was produce his podcast, and I would record them, and then I would chop up and make reels out of the podcast episodes, and that's sort of where I learned the skill and realized like, oh, I could do this. It's pretty easy to get comic book podcast people to interview comic book creators. So
yeah, no, I'm all for having myself chopped up and whatnot. So like, and I keep all the recordings. So like, you let me know what you need.
Yeah, just shoot me the raw file. That's awesome, because I will promote you and me at the same time.
Exactly. But yeah, so I now have two closing questions. We'll see if you remember the second one, because the one has been around forever. So you've been asked it twice before. But my new closing question, I'm in my 5th year of doing this podcast, and I like pinch myself regularly because I feel like I've fallen into the twilight zone. You know, the number of people that used to be names on the pages of some of my favorite artifacts who are now people that I talk to regularly, or some of them are even ones that like are friends or good friends or best friends, or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
The number of opportunities that I've wound up having, the most recently, I think you know about this because we had to reschedule because of it. I had 2 cars break down in a week.
Yeah, you told me.
And we managed to buy 2 cars that Saturday. I mean, technically lease one and buy one, but
right,
because of a comic book connection.
That's amazing.
If I didn't have this podcast, who knows if we'd both be in vehicles yet.
Right.
And it would have been even less likely that it was like inside, but it turned out that somebody I know because of this podcast is related to the manager of a Volkswagen dealership and the owner of said Volkswagen dealership.
That's fantastic.
And it's like, go talk to my brother.
Right.
Who came in off maternity leave.
Oh, wow.
To spend 2 hours with us and get us into 2 cars inside of what we can afford. And we're teachers, so that's not easy.
Right.
So that's my new like crazy surreal experience. But I found that like everybody in comics has stories like that.
For sure.
So tell me about a surreal experience that you've had that never would have happened if you weren't deeply involved in comics.
I mean, at this stage of life, when it like I really understand that it's about my kids, right? Like this stage of life is about being there for my kids and present and caring more about that than I am about my own self. I don't have a lot of time and energy outside of these four walls.
Right.
And the people that keep me sane that I'm not really, that I don't live with, all of them, many of whom live hundreds or thousands of miles away, are met through comic books. Like the people whose brains work like mine, who I can talk to about TV shows without them getting upset or losing interest in what I'm saying, and who can follow the thread of my brain that bounces all over hell when I'm talking. All of them come from comic books. And I don't know. I like, there are many of people that I know from outside of that I love, but I think I have any of those relationships without this. And
Yeah.
so I think I don't know if it's surreal, but at 44, my sanity is because of my family and then the people that I met through this.
Well, I mean, I guess because I have that similar thing, and I guess the part that's surreal to me about that aspect of comics and the number of people is that I realize how many people my age don't actually have a lot of friends and are really bad at making new ones.
Right.
And I have made more friends in my 40s than I made in my teens, and I'm closer to them all, and I connect with them regularly, and they're all comics friends.
Right.
I
Yep. Yeah.
hear people insisting that it's impossible to make friends after it. I'm like, no, it's not.
You just have to, and that's a nice thing, I think, about there's something that connects us in this hobby, like being interested in this and being interested in this enough to want to go and do the social things or make the things or like have a podcast. Like if your
Right.
energy level is that high, there's something similar about those sorts of people. I assume it's like being a theater kid. Like theater kids all speak a different language than those of us that do that. But yeah, I it kept me sane through my divorce. It kept me sane through COVID, and it keeps me sane now when I just don't have a lot of time or bandwidth that I can pick up the phone and call someone in Charlotte or someone in New York or someone in Los Angeles who I never see.
Well, I'm always available, dude. Always available.
Yeah.
I enjoy talking to you.
Same.
We don't have to record every conversation.
I appreciate that.
I'm a texter.
That's the most surprising thing that it has brought me. When I started would have been all of the Marvel books and my success and awards and things. Like that stuff sounds cool, but I would give it all up if it meant I got to keep the friendships and relationships that I got out of it.
Thankfully, you don't have to give it all up to keep the friendships because they're kind of tied together a little bit. Yeah. I mean, not that the friends would go away if you got stripped of your Eisners, as long as you were stripped for good reasons. You didn't go to any islands in the early 2000s, did you?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
I don't think comic book famous works that way, but yeah, no.
Nobody comic book famous.
I mean, unless it was Rob Liefeld or one of the Image guys, I don't think so.
All right. Now the standard closing question. Tell me something you love, preferably comic, but we don't have rules. Preferably storytelling, but again with the rules. But something that you love that you don't have enough people around you that have experienced it, and you need more of them too, so you have more people to talk about it with.
I love Slow Horses.
The book or the series?
Well, I'm sure the books are brilliant, but the TV
I've
show,
only read the first one, but it was really good.
Yeah. The TV show is my favorite thing. We burn through it way too quick every time there's a new season. Gary Oldman's work on that is some of the most compelling acting that I've ever seen in anything. And just the character work, the storytelling structure, everything about that show is incredible in the way that like Breaking Bad or Mad Men or early Game of Thrones was. And because it's a show that's kind of hard to explain on Apple TV, not enough people have seen it. And
it's been kind of on the periphery of my thing, and I'm still waiting for Cantwell's new series to finally be released. He's been done like filming it and all of that stuff for like a year now, but
Oh,
AMC
wow.
hasn't dropped it.
Right.
I'm hearing sometime this year. But it means I've got time to kill. Um, Slow Horses isn't a series that my wife will watch with me. We do comedies. Um,
Yeah.
the only kind of crime she likes is true crime. I don't understand how that works. It's like if it's real, it's research, but if it's entertainment,
Yeah, Whitney's like that in general. Like things that stress her out, she has to be in the right mood to watch them. But she
right.
loves Slow Horses. I got her on the train early on, and she's just as into it as I am now.
Well, that's I think the chances. I mean, again, you know, I love my wife dearly, and I love all of the shows that she loves. And she does not love like 80% of the shows that I love, which makes it a pretty easy decision to just let her control the TV.
Right. Sure. Yeah,
But
that
we've
makes
got a second one now. So sometimes if I feel like it, I can just go watch on my own.
right.
And for that matter, this year we have separate spring breaks.
Yeah, so you'll get a little alone time.
Every once in a while, it works out that way. Well, Dennis, it is always a pleasure. I look forward to talking again. I completely forgot to like bring up you worked with Bram Revel on this book,
Yeah.
which means that it's the third Bram Revel book that I know I've read. Who knows if I've read others because I'm not as good at noticing the artist, but he did a book with Ronald Wimberly about a black airman, I think in the French Air Force, trying to remember the name of it. But I also just read in advance of um, Mrs. Orwell.
That looks amazing.
It
Yeah, I
is
haven't read
amazing. It is amazing. And like I took a double take when I saw his name because I'm like, and then I had to remind myself, oh no, graphic not or like original graphic novels have a much longer lead time, et cetera, blah blah blah.
it. Yeah.
So he was done with this a while ago and then could jump into to Just Brutal. So, but it's also you don't see a lot of artists that float back and forth. They do one or the other. So I mean, is there any story behind that, or
I just asked all of my smartest friends that have the best taste in art who I should.
oh, you asked them and they
And two of them on the same day recommended Brahm. So I was like, I reached out and they put in a good word, and he happened to have a slot open because Just Brutal was actually originally going to be Ty Walker, who I love to death, and we developed it back in the day, but his day job didn't allow, like it just wasn't,
gotcha.
couldn't make it work. And so he very graciously and sweetly signed all the rights back over to me so that I could make it happen because it just wasn't
Gotcha.
happen with us. And so, yeah, to go from having Ty to not knowing was really terrifying. And now Brum has just been amazing. Like I can't.
Well, and the name of the book that I was forgetting is Now Let Me Fly, a portrait of Eugene Bullard, is out already with Ron Wimberly, came out a couple of years ago. And then Mrs. Orwell is out later this spring or early summer.
I believe so. Yeah.
And yeah, First Second sent me a copy, and oh my God, is it good? I mean, it's like outstandingly good.
Yeah, I'm
Both
excited.
the art and the writing. I recommend it heavily. You should give him a hard time. Say, hey, send me a reader copy.
He just had his first baby. Like his
Oh,
wife.
well, okay.
Baby, like last month.
Then wait at least a couple more weeks to give him a hard time.
Right. Yeah. I'll give him.
Or I mean, you could be like you could say, hey, I understand having first babies. If like you need to wake me up in the middle of the night just because you got a baby that's keeping you awake and you need somebody to talk to, I'm here for you, man. But then the first time he makes that call, it's like, I got up for you. I could really use
it. Yeah, that's a good call.
Always a pleasure, Dennis. For 22 panels, this has been Dennis Hopeless. We will see you after the next page.